Good morning. Such a happy moment to be together, even through this hard glass box here. I'm going to guide us in a sitting meditation for about 10 minutes, and then we will do the earth touching practice. Thai has taught us that it's important to touch our conditions of happiness before we look at our suffering, that there's an art to suffering. And part of the art of suffering is touching our conditions of happiness. So we'll start there. So if you get comfortable, I will invite the bell and I will just lead us a little bit in remembering our conditions of happiness. So we want to bring to mind a thought of joy, a thought of happiness, or perhaps many. I'm feeling my bottom on the seat, and that in and of itself is a moment of happiness. Looking at the window, out the window at the gray sky, which in New Mexico, about to rain sky is a great moment of happiness. And the leaves, the earth, all the thousands of conditions within our bodies that are working well, even if we have some that are not. You may have other conditions of happiness. Just spend a few moments together nurturing those conditions of gratitude, happiness, blessings. As Thai would say, what's not wrong? So I have a couple acknowledgements before we begin our practice. The first one is I want to acknowledge the original people of the land where I am, which is the Tewa people, who cared for this land for thousands of years before others arrived. And if you know the original people where you are, or if you are an original person from where you are, to please silently make that acknowledgement. And if you don't know who the original people are of the land that you walk on, that might be something for homework to find out. That's my first acknowledgement. The second one is I want to acknowledge someone who's here with us today, and I hope this is not embarrassing, but my teacher and friend, Joanna Macy, is with us. Thank you for being with us, Joanna. And I actually say this practice is Thich Nhat Hanh meets Joanna Macy, so I'm honored and a little humbled and would be grateful for feedback. So what we're going to do today is we're going to do touching of the earth. And there are many ways to do that. And if you are someone who's knows how to do it in our tradition, what we tend to do is we get ourselves in a child's pose on the ground, and then we just turn our palms up. And there are other ways to do touching of the earth. Some people lay their bodies flat out on the ground. Some simply reach down and touch the earth, or really notice the contact of their feet on the earth. So there's not a right or wrong way to do this. We want to do what is going to get us closest with being in touch with these 4 earth touchings. So if you have a way that you would like to do that, please feel free to get comfortable. In the formal practice, we say, please touch the earth at some point in the earth touching, and then we say, please stand. I sometimes find I don't want to stand. I just want to keep touching. And if you find that something is really moving you and that you want to continue to be with that transformative energy, feel free to just stay touching the earth. So again, the aspiration is to get as close as possible to connecting with what might be grief and the transformation of grief. We have so many conditions of grief, they just keep coming so fast. We don't have time to metabolize them. They just keep coming and coming and coming. The grief of the earth, the grief of our social and political situation. I don't think that there's a separation between the social problems that we address and the problems that we have with our climate and our degradation of the earth. So I learned this from Joanna, that we have to keep turning towards our grief, to keep metabolizing it. We cannot ignore it or push it away. And because it keeps coming so quickly, we may have to turn to it many times a day. But to not, in some ways, our grief is so unacknowledged. We read a new piece of news or a new something that has happened that takes us to a place of grief, and we just kind of push it away and keep moving. And so then it's building up within us. And that can lead to hopelessness and despair, can lead to giving up. So I want to encourage us to turn towards this. And it may bring up feelings. Your feelings may not be complete when we finished touching the earth this morning, and that's okay. To keep turning towards it, to keep metabolizing it. Tai says there's an art to suffering, which is to holding our suffering like it's a baby or a little puppy or kitty, but something that we would treat very, very tenderly. So to give ourselves the opportunity to do that. So with that, these are the 4 earth touchings for life on earth. The first earth touching, people. Dear Buddha, we see the ways we have believed we are separate and made this separation into systemic otherizing of humans. Please touch the earth as you like. This separation has led to harming, commodifying, and disregarding other humans. We have taken people from their original homes and put them on reservations, stealing their land and silencing their culture and languages. We have enslaved bodies in order to make wealth for others. We have used people's bodies in other ways as well. In particular, women come to mind at this time. We have made borders and structured our society so that some humans are illegal, while others hoard resources beyond anything they could ever use. We have set up our society so that some earn great wealth, while others work 3 jobs and still must choose between housing, food, and health care due to limited resources. We have deemed some more worthy based on their gender, skin color, body size, and appearance. We've created gated communities in order to separate ourselves from our siblings who must sleep on the streets and are hungry. We have believed talking to one another is not possible and that angry accusations are communication. We have watched as people have lost their homes due to flooding and fire. We have gone to war with one another over our Earth's precious resources. We have not made the necessary changes needed to protect the most vulnerable. We have not opened our lands or our hearts to help. We have believed that we can separate ourselves one from the other in these manners and more. This belief that we can otherize has led to the very system that has caused us to disregard and spoil our home. We have seen our earth herself as separate from us and therefore something to use. This misperception has led to loneliness, alienation, and despair. We allow ourselves to grieve this mistaken belief and all the harm it has caused. We know in truth we cannot be separated one from the other. Just as a newborn baby could not live without a caregiver, we are inextricably connected. We vow to remember our interbeing. We give our grief to the earth, and in doing so, we are able to transform it, refresh ourselves, forgive ourselves and each other, and we begin anew. Please stand or sit as you like. The second earth touching, animals. Dear Buddha, we see the ways we have believed we are separate and made this separation into systemic otherizing of animals. Please touch the earth as you like. This mistaken belief has led us to forget to look to our animal siblings for their wisdom. We forget to notice all they contribute to the harmony and rhythm of our sentient world. The birds who know how to fly to their winter homes, fish who can breathe beneath the water, the butterfly that metamorphoses, the beavers building dams, the bear roaming our forests, and so many more. We have allowed animals to be born into conditions that do not respect their true animal nature. We have caged, shackled, and denied animals their freedom in order to raise them to be eaten. Chickens caged so close together that their feathers don't grow, and they peck each other to death. Cows kept from moving so their meat is more tender. We have poisoned and killed animals in our neighborhoods to make room for more people, or because they are considered pests. Out of misguided greed, we have killed elephants for their tusks, eliminated habitat so that big cats cannot roam or thrive. We have discarded what we call trash in such a way that wild birds have eaten it, filling their stomachs with plastic and choking. We have overheated the planet in such a way as to not have the balance in our insect and amphibian relatives, nor have we left enough ice for the polar bears. Every hour, we lose another one of our animal siblings to extinction. We have made these mistakes and so many more out of our mistaken belief that we are separate. We allow ourselves to grieve this mistaken belief and all the harm it has caused. We know in truth we cannot be separated from our animal siblings, just as we could not pollinate plants without bees. We are inextricably connected. We vow to remember our inner being. We give our grief to the earth, and in doing so, we are able to transform it, refresh ourselves, forgive ourselves and each other, and we begin anew. Please stand or sit as you like. The third earth touching, plants. Dear Buddha, we see the ways that we have believed we are separate and made the separation into systemic otherizing of plants. Please touch the earth as you like. We've lost touch with the miracles of tree, shrub, grass, and seeded lives with their roots in the ground. We forget to notice the communities in which plants live, communicating to one another through their roots. They share the water, the sun, and soil. They give us oxygen, and they absorb carbon dioxide. We forget to notice how plant life enriches our lives due to our daily contact with its beauty and calming nature. This separation has led us to poison our fields, create genetically modified foods, create seed that cannot be saved, and led us to losing much of our plant gene heritage. We have lost touch with the sacred cycle of the seasons and growth. Our forests and all who live within them are hurting due to wildfires, overheating, and drought. We have burned uncounted acres of rainforest, adding more carbon dioxide to an increasingly hot planet. We have also cut down trees for personal gain, forgotten how to identify wild plants, as well as how to grow our own food. We allow ourselves to grieve this mistaken belief and all the harm it has caused. We know in truth we cannot be separated from our plant siblings. Just as we cannot live without food, we are inextricably connected. We vow to remember our interbeing. We give our grief to the earth, and in doing so, we are able to transform it. refresh ourselves, forgive ourselves and each other, and we begin anew. Please stand or sit as you like. The fourth earth touching, minerals. Dear Buddha, we see the ways we have believed we are separate and made this separation into systemic otherizing of minerals, our earth Gaia herself. Please touch the earth as you like. We have forgotten that the air, water, rocks, and earth are living and not separate from us. This has caused us to forget that we are cells in the earth's body. We have dug up Bodhisattva Gaia's body to be used as commodities and have treated resources as if they are not actually part of us. We have dirtied our own nest. We have misperceived that the rose is separate from the compost, that there are minerals we think of as resources, which we think can be separated from minerals that we think of as wastes. This has caused us to dig up oil and gas, uranium, and many other fossils and minerals, rather than leave them safely in the ground, where they have lived for eons, metabolized and composted by the earth. We have polluted our water, soil, and air in the misperception that we can separate defiled from immaculate. In truth, we know that all of Gaia is sentient, that water, air, earth, and rock are all sentient. We are simply cells in the earth's body. We allow ourselves to grieve this mistaken belief and all the harm it has caused. Just as the air we breathe cannot be separated into your air and my air, we know in truth we are inextricably connected. We vow to remember our interbeing. We give our grief to the earth, and in doing so, we are able to transform it, refresh ourselves, forgive ourselves and each other, and we begin anew. Please sit as you like. So let's just sit for a moment or two and allow ourselves to be with whatever has come up, neither grasping it nor pushing it away, just allowing it to metabolize in our own body as we notice the sensations that we're experiencing. So, before we have Dharma discussion, want to just say that in the Anapanasati Sutta, the sutta on the 16 awarenesses of breathing, the fifth exercise is to bring up a moment of joy. And the sixth exercise is to bring up a moment of happiness. Thai tells us that joy is happiness with a little like expectation, like if we're really thirsty and get to a pool of clear water, that before we arrive, it's joy. But once we've drunk deeply from that water, it turns to happiness, which is a quieter feeling of happiness. And then, so that's the fifth and sixth exercise. The seventh exercise is to bring up a mental formation. So we have just brought up probably 100 mental formations through touching the earth. And then we calm the mental formation. And after that, that's calming the mental formation is number 7. And number 8 is to make our minds happy. So we sandwich our happiness and our joy with this practice. It's not to get lost in this practice. It's not to let this practice overwhelm us. And so I don't know if today, through Dharma sharing, through your own experience of being here today, if we will actually get to that make your mind happy part or not, because grief is different for each of us and it metabolizes at different speeds. And so I want to mention that now, because if you have not, and we're going to save a little time at the end, Stephanie, if we could just save a little time at the end to make our minds happy. And you might not feel like you're ready to make your mind happy there, but we'll still practice it. And then, and if you haven't been able to sometime later today, find a moment or a way where you make your mind happy, where you come back to that, to being in the present and to seeing yourself as part of everything. So, so let's see, with that, maybe Stephanie, it's 34 minutes after the hour. And that if we divide into 2 groups, let's come back at 10 after. So that gives us 35 minutes for Dharma sharing. Then I'll guide us in something to help us turn toward making our minds happy, and then we'll have an opportunity to introduce ourselves and share the merit. Before we break into rooms, so in Dharma sharing, we do our best to share from our heart, not intellectual knowledge. We don't have crosstalk. We might be inspired or moved by something someone said, and we can refer to that in the group, but we endeavor not to have a two-way conversation. There is the little chat button if you want to talk with somebody more later. You could find a way to get information to do that. And also we will be sharing this, and the today's Sangha will be sharing both this written version and a video of today's Sangha, not including the Dharma sharing, for those who you might like to offer this to or take to your Sangha. So with that, thank you all for your kind dear friends. The room I was in was very nourishing. The sharing was really filled my heart. Sorry, the very tail end of the last sharing got cut off. I feel so nourished being here with all of you. Thank you for your true presence. So I thought we would spend a few moments just coming back to our bodies and the present moment, kind of letting our thoughts go. Maybe we could just sit together. So as we have the experiences that we're having, both the grief, the feelings of love for the earth, the inspiration given to us by so many, including the whales that were spoken of in my group. We just want to notice the sensations in our bodies. And if there are still feelings of grief, to just hold them very, very tenderly, the way a mother would pick up a newborn baby or a father, without knowing yet what's wrong with the baby, and holding and being with whatever's happening, to comfort, to soothe. We want to do this in such a way as to not be grasping, holding on to the grief, and yet not be pushing it away, but just to allow. Just the way we metabolize food, it moves as it moves. Tai says that a good practitioner can always produce a moment of happiness. For a long time, I thought I must not be a good practitioner because I didn't think I could do it. And yet, when I really actually gave it a try, I saw that even in the depths of my deepest sorrow, I could produce a moment of happiness. So I'd like us to just notice all of our conditions of happiness. And I'm going to just read these few words of the Buddha as we complete this sitting. Do not pursue the past. Do not lose yourself in the future. The past no longer is. The future has yet to come. Looking deeply as life as it is, in the very here and the very now, the practitioner dwells in stability and freedom. We must be diligent today. To wait till tomorrow is too late. So I feel I want to add that I don't know exactly what Joanna would say right now, but I know that what she teaches is that experiencing our grief allows us to see with new eyes, see in new ways, figure out what our next steps are. So I hope as this practice is with you today and this week and this month that maybe you'll